I was trying to adjust the camera there. Oh, happy Tuesday to you. I am preparing to make some sick day beef stew. As I've said in a prior video, my daughter and I have both been pretty ill. There is a nasty flu going around our area, and as I understand, other parts of the country as well. And so I'm starting to feel probably about 80%. One thing that I throttle back on significantly is cooking when I feel ill, just because the combination of standing doing the dishes and standing while cooking when you can't taste your food because your nose is so stuffy is not as appealing. So I know I'm starting to get better when I start getting back into cooking properly. But we are on the mend. Kiddo is probably more like 95%, which is great news. It hit her a little harder than me, unfortunately. But she's back at school and plucky as all get out, and that makes me happy. Let's see, not to mention the temps in the Pacific Northwest right now. We are hovering at a pretty solid 31 degrees Fahrenheit right now. It's high noon, and it's a beautiful, clear, sunny day out. Absolutely lovely, but the cold is biting. So I need a break from chicken noodle soup and broths and things like that. So I'm going to whip up this sick day beef stew that I began a couple of days ago. If you recall that video, I think it was a short actually, I just cooked up in a bread pan half a pound of sirloin roast and one peeled and diced potato, one carrot sliced up pretty thick, one celery stalk sliced up pretty thick, and about a half a cup of diced onions. And I just generously seasoned the veg with some salt and pepper, and I also generously coated the meat in beef stew seasoning, my homemade blend, and I just love it. So I let this sit in the fridge to basically separate out the fat. When you do that, the fat, creates a layer on top, and it's very easy to take the fat off versus skimming it. That way you just use a spatula and scoop it off the top. It's hard and also useful if you do keep your fat for other cooking, certainly flavorful. So the beautiful thing is the beautiful juice separated out, and so I have about a half a cup of beef broth, proper beef broth, straining off here. And I am also using the buttermilk that we made the other day. We did a homemade butter just by putting a pint of full cream into a mason jar with a secure lid, shook the ever-loving belief out of it for about 20 minutes, and it separated out the butter and the buttermilk. And so I have perfect amounts, to do this whole combination. So we have a cup of buttermilk. I brought that out of the fridge here to bring it as close to room temp as I can. I have done a video on the buttermilk biscuits before, and it has actually, it's been a while since I've made them, maybe 6-8 months, something like that, maybe 9 months. So I went ahead and just measured everything out in advance. We have 2 cups of all-purpose flour, half a teaspoon of salt, half a tablespoon of sugar, and 2 teaspoons of baking powder. Combine, you mix that goodness together, then you add 5 tablespoons of butter, salted butter, even though you can certainly use both. And let's see, you just kind of add the butter into the dry ingredients and then get to cutting. before you add the beautiful buttermilk. So I'm just going to start there. I chose to go with some classical music this afternoon because it's just so calming. And I have my tea steeping in the background. Life is good. I sure hope the same goes for you as well. I've mentioned before too that I'm a substitute teacher, and I've been back to work. I did work this morning, so I have the afternoon off, and I decided to make this stew and biscuits, so my kiddo has a yummy nibble when she gets home. We have a busy night of swimming ahead of us. Back to the activities. Oh. I didn't mention this too, but with the biscuits, you do want the butter to be cold. So it makes it a lot easier to cut in. I also have mentioned before that I have a couple of jobs, and one of them is event staff, and I experienced Thunderdome on Sunday. Holy moly, it was EDM at its finest, and certainly have never experienced it to that degree. And I was posted up in a spot where I was right in the center of the action. It was pretty exciting. A lot of great costumes, certainly great music. I love electronic music like insanely. In EDM, it's a little harsher than I am used to, and my head was ringing for a while after I left the concert. But I'm sure glad I got to experience it. I am really enjoying that job, and it's quite a mind bender to do something like that, and then the next morning be teaching kindergarten. Only thing I wish with this job was that I wish that they handled the smaller venues too, because a lot of my favorite artists are a little more obscure, smaller crowds, and certain theaters where I'm seeing Kraftwerk coming into town. OMD is coming into town, and they're both at venues where we don't cover. So I just might have to look into getting some tickets to that business. Looking forward to that. Balancing adult fun with kiddo fun is quite a balancing act. And I find myself holding off on pulling the trigger with attending concerts because in a lot of ways, I'm just not sure what my schedule will allow. My kid's involved in quite a few activities, and I don't want to pack things too tight, certainly. But I think Kraftwerk might be my birthday gift to myself this year. Which I can say it's kind of like that's a dream come true in a lot of ways. Another dream I had was to see Depeche Mode, and I had tickets. And last year they came through town, and my kiddo was sick, and so at the last minute I had to cancel, but I sure threw on the records and enjoyed it properly once she was snuggled up in bed. Hopefully I get to see them another time. That would be awesome. All right. Get this tea ready. And cheers. For these biscuits, I do have the oven preheating to 400 degrees Fahrenheit. It's kind of nice. It's making the kitchen nice and warm. Okay, let me just check over the recipe, make sure I'm being honest here. That's in, that's in, that's in, that's in. Need this. All right. Okay, it's time. And goes 1 cup of buttermilk. I'm going to use my hands and get into this goodness here. I may or may not need to add a little milk to moisten. It feels pretty good. What a bright, cheerful orchestration today. Yeah, no extra milk needed. Awesome. This flour that I bought last time, it's quite nice. It's different in some way. I mean, it's organic. I don't typically buy organic. I definitely always buy unbleached flour. So maybe there's something going on here as a result of the organic flour. Putting love into the biscuits. I do wish that these were coming out of the oven hot, but at the same time taking advantage of time to prepare it's taking precedence today with all the activities going on later in the afternoon. Okay, we're looking good there. Just give it a little dusting of flour. Okay, and before I drop it in here, I have prepared a pan. I greased the bottom of the pan and the sides, and even over the sides with generously with butter, and I just nested some parchment paper. If you remember that little trick about folding the parchment into wedges or into a wedge, you can size it to the pan. So I did a pretty good job on that this time around. Go ahead and drop in the dough. Soak your dishes as you go. And it makes for light cleaning afterwards, after baking. Oh, that's going to be lovely. Ooh, this feels wonderful. I did just gorge myself on YouTube videos about cooking, science, all sorts of things. It was kind of an entertaining, sick bed experience for me. All right. So I'm just brimming with all sorts of ideas. right. Get rolling on this. I have 3 different size biscuit cutters, but I just went with this one this time around. And if we don't eat all of the biscuits immediately, I am just going to let them dry out, then pop them into a blender and use them as breadcrumbs. Keep them in a sealed bag in the freezer, and then no need for panko that night. Maybe I was kind of craving a little bit of meatloaf, so maybe I'll do that. Yeah, this isn't the right size to cut. Boop, 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 boop. Got my little one and fill in the rest here. Teeny biscuit. Oh! You want to stick in there, little guy. You could get away with another one right there. Perfect. Note to self, use the other biscuits. Biscuit cutter next time. No, I do base this in a little bit of milk. But I'm not going to do that this time. I'm just going to go ahead and pop this into the oven. I'm going to check it at 13 minutes. It can go as long as 18 minutes. I don't need to get those too toasty. So biscuits are in. The other thing I like to do with leftover buttermilk biscuits is I like to make a biscuits and gravy. I have I guess 1/4 pound left of the pre-cooked crumbled country sausage, and so that's a very basic process to throw that together on the fly. You would just make a white sauce, you know, with a roux, what we're going to do right now actually, and then you would add the sausage, additional seasoning, you know, sage or even just poultry seasoning is a great addition for the flavor. You know, of course, add a little, bump it up with the pepper and the onion powder, and then yeah, you mix the you could add it frozen. It might break the sauce though, but you probably want to reheat the sausage, you know, and render that oil, and that will kind of help as well. But yeah, you just put that over some warmed, even stale buttermilk biscuits that are halved, and you've got biscuits and gravy, which is also a fave. I can tell by my cooking favorites I'm very much an American. I love my apple pies and I love my biscuits and gravy. Okay, so let's go ahead and get going on this brew. Now I usually make double the amount, depending, like when I'm making mac and cheese, or when I typically do make this white sauce. But this time around, because I only have a half a cup of broth, or pardon me, a cup of broth, I'm going to just use a tablespoon of butter to 2 tablespoons of flour, half a teaspoon of, do I want to go half a teaspoon? I think maybe a 1/4 teaspoon of the salt, 1/8 teaspoon of black pepper, 1/8 teaspoon of onion powder, and call her good. So because I have the oven on right now, I am going to just put this butter over medium heat, let that melt up. I was busy prepping and a lot of distractions and different things going on in the background. I was listening to an awesome podcast. And so I thought too late to use the homemade butter that we made. I still do have about a quarter cup of that left. But I think I am going to use that to slather on the biscuits when I serve this up this afternoon. And I say a tablespoon of butter for this roux, but it was a generous tablespoon. We'll see how it goes here. I think I over-measured the flour a little bit, so I'll do that. That's 1 teaspoon. Oh, I'm glad I checked myself. It is a half a teaspoon of salt to 1/8 a teaspoon of black pepper and onion. Use my trusty little pan here. My nonstick pan. Again, if you are using nonstick cookware, certainly don't use metal utensils. Beautiful violet. I know I'm making progress when my tea cup gets closer and closer to me. Now there's where we want to get it there. Yeah, a little heavy on that. Even if it gets crumbly, it's still gonna be tasty. Did it work? Yeah, it's gonna be a little crumbly. No worries though. Woo! Energize. Again, my ever continuing quest to minimize the yeah, it's gonna be a little crumbly. No worries. I'm going to use this to store any leftovers too. Doesn't that look lovely? Yeah. Got the fond in there even. That's a way to go. Well, I am going to need to whisk this business up. So it doesn't get too dry. Well, I'm going to add this now. Oh, that smells wonderful. Just like pot roast or beef stew. Give it a good whisk. Don't let any of those chunks frighten you. I'm going to bump up the temp though, because we do want to bring this up but not get it too thick here. I think I could have done with 2 tablespoons of butter. Note to self. You'd think as much or as often as I make a roux that it would just be second nature, the measurements and proportions, but honestly, I'm moving more, I'm proud to say, I guess, I'm moving more towards a look and feel approach. There we are. Get those chunky niblets out of there. And if I did not have a full cup of the beef broth, I would have added a little bit of more bouillon, beef bouillon in hot water. There we go. There. Yep. That extra bit of heat did help. And as you bring it to a boil, that flour will cook off. Now, there is definitely still moisture in the vegetables and meat, and so that will kind of not turn this so much into a thick mess, but it will make a nice hearty stew. What I'm going to do is I'm going to cut the heat now and add the veg and meat. Just give this a good stir, because I am not actually going to bring this up to cook right now. I am just preparing it, and then when my kiddo, when I pick her up from school, I'll be able to just reheat this gently. And there you go. Sick day beef stew on the ready. Okay, I'll set this aside. We have just 3 minutes to go yet before the biscuits are ready. Listen to a little bit more beautiful music. I should have looked up some jokes. I've been finding that my chattiness has gone down. I think that's, the 20% that I'm still recovering from this illness. I think that's what's going to turbo boost. That will mean once I get chatty again, that means I'm feeling 100%. I'm surely looking forward to that. All right, I'm just going to pop a lid on this stew, and when I do reheat it, I'm just going to bring it up over low heat, because I don't want to, cook it and make the overcook it, I guess, and make the stew thick and like gummy. Let that roux rest. Elasticity in it. Ooh, those are smelling good. Let's see how we're doing here. So it's in for 13 minutes. Need a little bit more time. A couple minutes here. So bear with me, and we will have some biscuits on the ready here.
The Havanez in E, written by Camille Saint-Saëns, a performance by the Quebec Symphony Orchestra and violinist James Ennis, under the baton of Noah Talbot.
Support for Classical King comes from Sound Salon, presenting Before Bach.
Okay.
Harpsichordist Byron Schenkman and a Baroque string ensemble perform a program of early Baroque music which inspired the work of J.S. Bach. Saturday, February 15th, 7 p.m. at Epiphany Church. Tickets and information available at soundsalonmusic.org.
That sounds
Seattle
awesome.
Opera presenting Mozart's classic, The Magic Flute,
Ooh.
February 22nd through March 9th.
I'm gonna write that down.
Featuring a Seattle production with projected hand-drawn animations. Mozart's The Magic Flute is at McCaw Hall for 8 performances.
Ah, The Magic Flute.
SeattleOpera.org.
Ah, I'm gonna look for that event. Actually, nope, I'm gonna buy tickets to that event so I can take my daughter. I think she would love that. McCaw Hall is definitely one of our venues.
This was prior to World War II.
Let's see.
He settled in Florida, where he eventually developed both brain cancer and severe depression. He sadly died of a sedative overdose at age 71. We're going to hear an excerpt from that.
And I said I was going to use that
This is the polka and fugue performed by the Cincinnati
bowl for any leftovers. I honestly, we're not going to have any leftovers. I am hungry. I skipped breakfast, and I guess I had a little bit of avocado toast, but I'm going to take full advantage of that stew. Oh. All right. There we are. Nice and springy. Oven off. There we are. Buttermilk biscuits. Before I get ahead of myself or get too chatty, I'm going to check out how this turned out here. Turn this out immediately into a baking rack. Oh, yeah, that worked beautifully. Okay, whoa, it practically flew out of the pan. Okay. I'll let that cool as is, and I'll pull it apart. Let me give it a little try here. Yeah, I can see that the bread is, or the flour is a little different. Oh, cheers. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Oh, I love that. So there we are. Beef stew and buttermilk biscuits. Give it a try. Easy peasy. Do it in over 2 days, and make it easy on yourself. But thank you for joining me in the kitchen, and I wish you all the best. Well-being, health, and happiness. Cheers.